Hey guys, Dr. K in St. Charles running a few errands. Actually a very foggy day. Thought it'd be a good time for a long version of Cars and Coaching. And I was sitting around thinking about failure. And as you get older, you think, how many things have you done in your life that were actually rooted in failure, and somehow you still end up coming out ahead? So I think the important key is everybody has a fear to failure, right? Nobody wants to fail. It's a bad feeling. If we set our goal at being successful and then we fail, we feel as though we've come up short. But I think one of the key things to remember is the only way that we could truly recognize and appreciate success is to know the dichotomy or the opposite, which is actually failure. Success, they say, is sweet, but the only reason success is sweet is because we've come to know failure. So it's a huge difference. Think about it. When you were in school, you did bad on a test. Bad by the standards that the organization or the scholastic system set up. So you may have gotten a C, you may have gotten a D, and you had a certain feeling associated with that. It was a feeling of failure. But then think how joyous you were and how jubilant you were when you actually did much better and got a B or an A. That dichotomy, the difference between the way you felt when you thought you failed and the way you felt when you thought you succeeded, that success was really measured against failure. So I think that's extremely important to understand, is that we are a society that doesn't like to fail because we look at failure as being final, and failure is not final by any stretch. Failure is the ability to do something, come up short from what the ultimate goal was, but still have the ability to learn from that, take your learnings, put them into the next process, and move closer and closer to success. I think that's one of the keys. And remember, we talk a lot about a fixed and growth mindset that Carol Dweck talks about. And a fixed mindset is one that if you do something and you fail, you stop immediately. You don't go ahead and continue to improve and understand that success is a process. You say, hey, I failed. I must not have the skill. I quit. But a growth mindset says, hey, nothing's going to keep me down. I'm going to continue to do this. I may never be perfect, but I know that if I continue to try and continue to hone my skills and continue to understand where I failed and what I could do differently, that then turns out to be moving us closer and closer to success. And that's the pure growth mindset. And I really feel sorry for people that have a fixed mindset because it holds them back or it stops them from doing anything further. Because once they taste failure, they're done. They have the fear that, hey, I'm never going to be able to do this, which obviously mindset comes into play, because if you go ahead and tell yourself you're never going to succeed, odds are you won't succeed, because your mind does a very important thing. It always tries to be true to you. So if you say you can't do something, the mind will make sure that you won't do it. If you say you can do something, the mind will go ahead and try to figure out ways to continue to improve the process, to continue to improve you as a person and move you closer to whatever the goal is. So failure, you have to, it's a faithful attempt in learning. That was a definition that I heard. And I think that's a tremendous definition, right? Failing is I think that it was faithful attempt in learning, right? And that's important, right? Because no matter what you do from a failure perspective, if you learned, it's truly not a failure. So I think that's one of the keys, because that's where resiliency comes in. If you're resilient, you have the ability to not only bounce back, but to be able to bounce forward towards something, right? You fail and you stop, you don't have any resiliency. The people that continue to make it to the top, the ones that understand failure, understand the purpose of failure, embrace failure. Roger Federer just gave a speech, and if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It talks about all of the times. Now, this is one of the most decorated tennis players in history. And it goes through how many times he missed serves, how many times he missed points, how many games he lost. So failure is just part of that ultimate success that culminated for him, because failure is part of it. And scholastically, failure is part of it. I know through medical school, when I went through medical school, as my son goes through medical school, those of you that are in medical school now, failure is part of learning. You have to be able to understand what are the things that your knowledge base is short on. What don't you understand? You take those failures, you go ahead and improve them, and you continue to get better. You know, the whole thing with self-development is this. Self-development isn't a weekend course. Self-development isn't one podcast. Self-development is the ability for you to continue to do things to improve yourself through both successes and failures for the rest of your life. It's that 1% of improvement every single day. If you think you've reached the max and don't continue to improve, you're going to go ahead and plateau. Things are going to stagnate. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's extremely important to understand, no matter how successful you are, no matter how unsuccessful you are, the most important thing is to continue to try to move towards your set goals and embrace failure and move in that direction.